Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Deck National League podcast with me, Dan. I'm joined by Craig tonight. How are you doing, mate?
I'm very well, thank you, Dan. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Thank you. And I'm joined, as always, by Mark as well. Are you okay, mate?
Aloha, fellas. Yes, everything's okay. Hope you two are doing good as well.
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. We're going to do Too Good, Too Bad, which is going to be two teams that we've seen this summer doing a lot of business that we think is going to have a good season. Then we're going to pick two teams that are potentially lost some good players, could do a bit more this summer, and need to do some more business really to have a good season next season. So we're going to start with obviously the teams that have stood out to us this summer. One that obviously sprung to mind straight away was Eastleigh. I think Eastleigh have done some incredible business. Craig, what did you make of Eastleigh's business so far this summer?
Yeah, so they've been particularly busy. I think last season they were kind of floating around mid-table, and they obviously had aspirations to go a lot higher up in the league and try and get themselves into the Football League. And I think that their signings really do back that up as well. I think 2 podcasts ago now, I mentioned Aaron Blair as one of my transfers to watch. So they've signed him from Maidstone and Temi Awikwa from them as well. I think they're a really good National League players that were playing in the South. And I think you'll find that more often that there's a lot of players in the South and North that can easily make that step up. So they've bought some young, hungry players from there. Archie Harris looks like a good young signing from Bournemouth. Townsend as the goalkeeper. I'm really impressed with that as a sign. I think that's quite a coup. And they're going to be looking forward to. But the one that stands out for me, which was a bit of a shock because I thought he might move into League Two with Oldham, was Josh Lindstrom. I think he's an excellent signing, and I think he might be one that brings them into playoff contention, whereas before these signings, I'd have probably expected another season of mid-table, maybe pushing for the playoffs. But now, we were talking earlier, we've started to build our predictions for the next season, which will be coming on a future podcast. I think these signs have pushed them into my top 7, and I'm really looking to see in Eastleigh when they come to Braintree, just seeing what kind of team that Kelvin Davis has built there and seeing how far they can go. But I really think they might be one that is competing for the playoffs. So yeah, some really good signings in there.
Yeah, definitely one of the teams that obviously as a neutral, just looking from the outside in, you look at the business and it does make you sit up and take notice. You look at some of them players; they are well established, very good quality players. And they finished, was it, I think 13th last season. I did jot that down. That was 13th last season. So I think they will improve on that. They have, with the business they've done, I'm sure they will. Playoffs, I think I expect them to. Like you've mentioned, we're on about predictions. We've started doing them. Our prediction shows are going to be in the next couple of weeks. We're going to do them. But Eastleigh, I think, have definitely made their way into contention in all of our eyes at the moment. Mark, what's your take on Eastleigh so far? The business they've done, obviously well-established players, but some good quality in there as well. Do you think the same as me and Craig?
Absolutely. I mean, they've got a hell of a blend. Josh Lundstrom, the one that stood out to me. I mean, he's ex-Altrincham, Oldham, and every time he was in that midfield, he performed. So for Eastleigh to get a player of his calibre is just fantastic. Also, Aaron Pierre as well. Vast experience, and they've done everything that they can. The hell of a good blend of experience and very youthful players, but like early 20s. I mean, and Nick Townsend, the goalkeeper. I mean, there's a lot of good goalkeepers in that league, and he will be with a fella like Aaron Pierre in front of him. Your goalkeeper is as good as your defence, and Townsend could be one of the ones to compete with the likes of Sam Johnson at Halifax, Ethan Ross at Altrincham. But yeah, you make some eye-catching signings, and then you make some statement signings, and I think Eastleigh have done the latter.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, like you say there, you touched on the defence and the goalkeeper. As a Carlisle fan myself, I've been kind of looking at transfer business and thinking you need to build a solid backline and have a solid goalkeeper to have a successful season at any level, and I think that they've really addressed that. Like we've said, that they've got left backs, centre backs, goalkeeper. They've seemed to have covered every base, and I think that's really important. And I think for me as well, you say about Aaron Pierre, that is a well established centre half that will do very well at this level, in my opinion. So all the credit to Eastleigh. I think they've done amazingly well so far this summer. And I've seen in their pre-season, I think they lost 2-1 to Southampton in their pre-season game. And I looked at the lineups, and it was a strong enough Southampton side as well. So they've pushed them pretty much to the limit, which is outstanding as well. So like I say, Southampton, obviously, I know they're in the Championship now, but they're only in the Premier League last season. And to play a strong side like that and only being beaten 2-1, I think is a strong sign as well for them. So, yeah, massive credit to Eastleigh. Our second team that we were going to cover was obviously Rochdale. I think, for me, were another team that have really stood up to be counted, made massive improvements in the transfer market. I picked, obviously, I'm not going to butcher his name. I'll just say Manny D. Obviously, this summer he's already scored in pre-season. I think is it twice he scored, 2 and 2. He's got pre-season already. That it looks already like it's going to be a good signing for them. Mark, any particular transfers for Rochdale that have stood out to you?
Well, Manny D is going to be the main person, as everywhere he's gone. It's always created excitement. I think because it was Hartlepool that got him from, I think ex-Tranmere as well, and everybody's had very high regard about him. I mean, but yeah, Rochdale have done what Eastleigh have done. They've got players in. I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head, actually, but it was one player who left them that stood out to me, Cairo Mitchell. And he was very highly thought. I thought he might have ended up at Altrincham, somewhere like that, but they went ahead and signed Jimmy Knowles. But I mean, a lot was expected of Cairo Mitchell last season. Didn't quite work out for him, and you might have thought that he would have gone to like a National League North side or something like that, but he stayed in there. But Rochdale, and it's who they've kept as well. Who they've kept, Sam Beckwith, I believe, was mentioned earlier on in a chat, and yeah, but the one thing I can't help but think about Rochdale is it win or bust for Jimmy McNulty. I mean, Rochdale were the side in the Football League who were just perennially there. You expected them, and now are they just going to be stuck in non-league? And to me, what they've done this season is they've had a clear out. They've brought in players, but again, it'll be like Carlisle, it'll be like York, it'll be like let's see who's in the. Everybody like that. Rochdale will be up there because they have to be up there. They can't hang around in this league too long. Look at Luton and Wrexham, how long it took them to get out. But no, I think they've got the squad to do it. Playoffs, why not? Why not? And if they can reach even higher, then that's great, because every bit of focus is on Carlisle and York at the moment. But we've picked these two teams for a reason, because they might just be the ones to cause a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I think for me, everyone's kind of talking about it being the Carlisle and York, to win the league type of thing. So it would have been easy to just sit here and talk about them two. So that's why we've tried to highlight some other teams that could potentially, dethrone them and take over them. And I think Rochdale fell just short last season, and I think they will want to go one better. One signing that I did write down was the goalkeeper from Man City, Oliver Watmuth, I think he's called. Just a young lad, but when you think a young lad might be a lot of pressure at this level, but I think Man City's academy is a well thought of academy, well respected. They've brought a lot of players through that academy. Again, we talked about defences and goalkeepers and things like that for Eastleigh, and I think the same here. You need to build from there, and build forwards, and you won't fail to not have a good season. So I'm intrigued to see how he gets on, because obviously we talk about Manny D and strikers and goal scoring and things like that, but defences and goalkeepers are just as important. Craig, was there any particular transfers for Rochdale this summer that stood out for you?
Yeah, so the first one I was going to mention was the young goalkeeper, Watmuff. So I think, like you said, it's almost it's a big risk, but it could it be a Joe Hart kind of situation? You think, going back probably 15, maybe even 20 years now, to when he was originally at Shrewsbury as a young goalkeeper, was very much thrown in, and he went on to become an England international. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be the exact route this young man takes, but it's a sink or swim moment for him. You've thrown him into National League football, men's football, still some part-time players in there that are fighting for their livelihoods effectively. It's going to be a big battle for him. And if he excels, you'd be looking for him to go into League One, League Two in the future on moves as well. But a young goalkeeper in the National League, it could easily blow up in their face, and all their hard work could just unravel in that one signing. But I think he's going to come good. That's my prediction. But we had Jacob Knightsbridge on loan from Oxford last year at Braintree, just released by West Ham, went to Oxford, and they kept him a lot longer in pre-season than expected, because they were thinking about being his number 2. So he came to us and we had such high hopes, and it just didn't work. I think he lasted 3 games, 2 or 3 mistakes in there. In the first pre-season game, he let in 5, and it just looked like a boy playing in a man's game. And I really hope for Watmuff it's not the same situation, but it can easily be. It's such a step up from being fantastic in youth football to being good in senior football. The other one I was going to mention was Joe Pritchard as well. So obviously they've signed him. He's a versatile player. We've drummed on here about the versatility in this league. A good versatile player can make a huge difference to your team. Instead of having to have 3 or 4, you've got that 1 or 2 players, which means you can maybe spend your budget elsewhere. And they've probably done that a little bit this summer as well. Instead of going a squad of 25, they've maybe gone for a squad of 22, 23 by having them versatile players in them. He's obviously played for Oldham, so he was in and around the local area. So it seemed a good move for him. And he'd be open for some good game time and to kind of get it back on track after being a bit stop-start at Oldham last season and obviously not playing much of a part as he wanted. But yeah, that's a move that I think that experience in there alongside these new signings, it's again another team that probably was expected to challenge for the playoffs before these signings anyway, but rather cements that, and they're knocking on that door of that top 2 that we keep mentioning. Can they, if either of them start slow, can Rochdale go and win the league? So yeah,
ATPT as well.
Yeah, big signing, very good signing.
Yeah, that's ruffled a lot of feathers since he went from Maidenhead up to Rochdale. He and Pritchard could be the catalyst. But you say with the goalkeeper, I think Altrincham have just signed Luke Hutchinson from Bolton as well, because Ethan Ross is still recovering from his injury. And he's very highly thought of as well. I think he's only 19, 20 years old himself, Luke Hutchinson. So it could be that some of the best players you'll see in the league this season will be between the sticks.
Yeah, I think just to touch on what you said about the goalkeeper as well, there's always a risk at any level when you're taking a youngster on loan. As a Carlisle fan myself, we've had our mixed bag over the last 20 years that I remember. We've had young goalkeepers come and be an absolute hit, and then we've had some that have been, let's just say, poor. We had one in particular from Reading when we were in League One, Jockrell Anderson, and he was, he wasn't good. And I felt so bad for him because he looked out of place. And, like you said, like he looked like a boy playing in a man's game, and he cost us, I think he started, was it 2 or 3 games? He cost us 2 of those 3 games that he played, giving penalties away, losing the ball. And it just, you feel sorry for them in the end because they're just young lads, so it is a risk. But I think he will be a success. I agree with you, Craig. I think that Man City academy has that reputation for a reason. And I think it would be like a calculated risk. Like they would have looked at it and been like, is he capable of playing amongst this level and things like that? And I think he'll be a success. And like you said about Casey Petit as well, I think he well like thought of at this level as well. And I think again, we talk about experience, and I think experience at this level was one thing as a Carlisle fan again, where I was saying this summer Carlisle needed to do that and need to just address the people that have played in these divisions that are aware of what's going on around them. Or I call them big time Charlies, coming down from League One, things like that. So I think it's important to do that as well. So again, all credit to Rochdale for making us stand up and take note. And just finally on Rochdale, I did look at their pre-season results. Grimsby they beat 2-0 and FC United and Manchester beat 3-0. So far they've scored 5, conceded none in pre-season. That's not bad going, really, is it? So yeah, the signs could be ominous.
Absolutely.
You said about goalkeepers. If you remember one at Carlisle that saved them from dropping down out of the league as well.
A certain Sir Jimmy Glass.
Jimmy Glass and one.
We could have done with him last
well.
season. We could have done with him last season. But yeah, though, they need a statue of that man. But yeah, no, I think it's important, like you say, versatility, experience at this level, and then when you're integrating the youngsters and the kids and things, you've got them players around them as well to drag them with them if they are struggling at that level. So I think it's really important. So that covers our too good. We're going to go to too bad. Obviously, I'll let you take the lead with this, Craig. Who was the first team that you thought of?
The first team I went for was Yeovil. So what I've seen on Twitter recently and on all social medias is their real lack of depth this year, which is something that they seem to be struggling with. As it stands, I believe they've got 15 contracted players going into the new season, which obviously isn't a million miles away now. I think we're about 16, 17 days away from the kickoff. Now, obviously, a lot of the League One, League Two teams, even Championship that you might be getting loans from, are probably still looking at those younger players, but they seem to be really struggling. A couple of players have moved on, a couple of players were released, but they're really struggling with depth. They think out of them 15 as well, I believe they've got 2 goalkeepers, they've got no right backs, they've got no real creative number 10 position players kind of thing. So they feel like there's a little bit of doom and gloom around Yeovil at the moment after the initial highs of a slight change in ownership over there, a really strong start to last season, which faded away. I think they're beginning to think they might be looking over their shoulder rather than trying to push back towards the league. Obviously, they've been as high as the Championship in the last 15, 20 years. And I think they were starting to think they were on the upward spiral again, maybe not to them extremes, but they've had a really slow window. But we could be sitting here in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, and they've made 5 or 6 outstanding signings. That is a caveat to what I've been saying. It feels like they're not just signing for the sake of signing. They're really kind of pick their players, pick their mould. But yeah, I think no right back, no real depth in a lot of positions, no real creative number 10 position, that they're a little bit nervous down in Yeovil, shall I say, about the season ahead. And they need a couple more through the door. I know there's been a lot about talk about their training facilities. I think from what I've seen, they've moved to Bristol. So slight change in that, maybe they're trying to attract players from different areas as well. But nothing seems to be happening down there at the moment. But like I said, in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, they could be a flip on that, and they could have signed 4 or 5 outstanding players, and then we're suddenly saying, have they got an outside chance of the playoffs? But at the minute, I feel like they've got a case of looking over their shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think football's quite fickle like that sometimes, where we're not necessarily saying they've had a rubbish window or anything. We're just saying that they need to do more. They need to bring more players in. They need to be competitive next season. And like you say, it could change in a couple of days. By the weekend, they could have signed 3 or 4 really good players. This on our next show, we could be like bumping them up in the predictions and things like that. You just don't know. So, but I think they do need to do more, and I think you're right. Mark, what's your opinions on Yeovil this summer?
again, suspended animation will get you nowhere in the transfer market. You think with a club with Yeovil's name, the reputation that they've got, that they'd be able to get, yeah, the players who you think, that's a good one to the squad. I mean, Truro are now in there, John Askey, and that they're signing up all their players, but they're bringing some in too. I mean, they're practically doing what Yeovil aren't at the moment. Yeovil need to get some players in, get them blended in quick. Otherwise, it'll be a slow start, and if it's a bad start to go with it, then it can take time to recover. I mean, I'm thinking along the lines of Sutton United as well. They've been in suspended animation too. I've barely seen anything mentioned of them bringing any players in, and again, it's going to be if you go right to the line of it and start thinking, I need those 5 or 6 players in by the time we play such and such on the Saturday. You've got to get them into the squad.
I would say though, Mark, sorry, I do slightly disagree with you on Sutton. I think they just went extremely early. I think they've actually made about 11 signings this summer.
11 signings.
Sutton, but I think we spoke about it previously where they were very much marooned in mid-table, that they actually seem to have got a lot of their business done really early, that almost you've kind of forgot about it now, kind of, because they've been settled for 2 or 3 weeks.
Therein lies the problem. We've forgotten about it already.
Yeah, but that could be a good thing sometimes. I'm
with Craig on this. I think that could be it could be a masterstroke. They've got their business done early. They've got the players integrated. They've had a full pre-season. It could be that, or I agree, it could have been a lot of business that they've maybe panicked, done it early. Again, it's football. We won't know really till the season starts and how they start. But I did see the other day Ashley Naddison up front for them. For Sutton United, he was at Carlisle on loan a few years back. I was very impressed with him. I mean, I've not tracked him that much recently, but when he was at Carlisle, he was a good striker. Chased lost causes, a lot of goals, different types of goals as well, but headers in particular. Very good player. So I kind of agree with Craig on Sutton. I think they maybe just got the business done early.
I'm surprised they didn't go for Donovan Wilson again. He was brilliant for Sutton. And I mean, he's at Dagenham now with Ashley Hemmings and the surprising injury to Andy Carroll. Wow, who could have seen that coming? But Donovan Wilson. But if they got the business done early, fantastic. But we can look and think, did they? They getting him in there. But Yeovil, more than anybody, out of the two, Yeovil will struggle to start. They'll struggle to get going if they don't sort out where and when the players are going to come from and how quickly they get integrated into it. But interesting, Craig, that you said that they're moving training grounds to Bristol. Do you think that they'll be looking at getting players from like Cardiff or somewhere like that?
Yeah, it seemed to be caused a little bit of, again, I'm only reading what I've seen on X and a few Yeovil fans I've kind of follow on there, that there's a little bit of uproar against that. And it seemed the players were almost divided about it. Some obviously had planned or already relocated to Yeovil and were built around there, and they felt it should stay within Yeovil, and some were...
because they're called Yeovil Town.
Yeah. So it has its positives, negatives. I think at the minute the negatives of that are outweighing the positives, and it's just been a really slow start for them in terms of the window. But yeah, they could be ones that are looking over their shoulder, or they could get 4 or 5 in. Obviously, we never know what's going on behind closed doors. They could have 3 or 4 lined up, or as I said, they could have 3 or 4 really exciting loan deals to come through the door, but the parent club wants to hold on to them for a little bit longer. So
that's a good thing about football, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, that's it. But if we knew everything, we'd all be predicting what was going to happen, and we'd all be right. So I think that's the enjoyment of football. That it's unpredictable, and obviously, I know we mentioned Sutton, but obviously we kind of disagreed on that. So obviously, another team that we were talking about for our too bad was Gateshead. I think that they've lost some vital players this summer. They lost Regan Booty, Greg Ollie in particular, and they haven't really brought anyone in. And I think, we talked about we've been preparing our predictions for our prediction show, and I do think they will drop off massively from where they were last season. Mark, what's your take on Gateshead this summer?
Oh no! If ever there was a club practically doomed to fail, it's Gateshead. Alan Armstrong has not been dealt any great cards here. I mean, as you say, two of the mainstays, Regan Booty going to Barrow, and Greg Ollie going to York. Though two massive losses for him, massive losses. And once again, it's what happening with Yeovil. They just haven't got in there and thought, right, let's get that player. Maybe they can't. I mean, there was the talk of the takeover with Victor and Ichibi that never materialised. Has that caused them to really rethink their recruitment? Because as Morecambe are finding out at the moment, takeovers, if they don't happen at all, it doesn't matter whether it's slow or quick, they don't happen at all, you've got to then spend weeks rethinking, what are we going to do? And football has a lot of twitchy players. And Gateshead are paying for that at the moment. And again, I'll use the phrase suspended animation, but it's from that maybe Alan Armstrong's been told, try and get younger players in on loan, try and find that free transfer because we've got absolutely nothing to give you. And that's a great pity for a club like Gateshead.
Yeah, I think, like I say, I think obviously because they've done well in recent years as well, I think because things aren't going so smoothly, the drop off will be, well documented because people will see them finishing higher up and then all of a sudden a big drop. And when you can see it in the table doesn't lie, does it? So I think they definitely need to do more. But I agree, it might be that the manager's hands are tied. He's maybe at a point where he can only do loan deals, he can only do free agents, so he's maybe having to wait till nearer the end of the window to get the best bargains or the cheapest players maybe potentially. But like Craig said, it's because we don't really know what's going on behind closed doors, so we're kind of guessing really just at what we know. So Craig, what's your take on Gateshead, mate?
Yeah, so they were under a FIFA embargo until early July, and obviously not being able to register players, and it was looking very bleak for them. They've obviously not kept players that are at a very high level. They've obviously been scouted by other teams, as you boys have already discussed, and made the moves probably for themselves to have that bit of security as well, because things have been very up in the air at Gateshead. I think if you go on the last half of last season's form, they were probably the worst team in the league towards the end. They were comfortably in the playoffs, and then, as we all know, they didn't make it towards the end. They really fell away. So there's clearly some issues there. There's some issues in the boardroom. There's issues on the pitch. There's issues with the pitch. All those kind of things they've had over previous years. And I think now that is kind of causing it to not be an ideal solution and an ideal scenario for players to want to come to. So it's making it hard for them to recruit. So they are one that I'm particularly worried about this year. But they've had, over the previous years, they've had waves of players go. They've had managers goes, and they've always found a way to be competitive again. But I feel like lightning can't strike this many times, and this could be the year where it really catches up with them. And I'm not saying they go down, although I've got them towards the lower end of the table. I feel like they're not going to be reaching the heights that they have in previous years, and they're going to be looking down the table and thinking, how are we staying up, rather than how are we putting a promotion or a playoff push together. So yeah, but as we said with Yeovil, in 2 weeks' time they could have rattled 4 or 5 signings out, and it's a completely different conversation. But but right now I've got them towards the bottom of the table and fearing for their life in this league effectively. And there may be 4 teams that are weaker than them right now, but them teams are looking to actively recruit, whereas it doesn't seem like much is in motion at Gateshead at the moment.
Yeah, and then you've got, like, we say there might be 4 teams worse, but there'll always be like a surprise as well. So I know when we were discussing our predictions, obviously I won't spoil it, but there were certain ones that we put in there. But like we say, there will be surprises. There will be teams that do better than we think, and then Gateshead might drop into that then because certain teams are doing better than expected. So I agree with you. I do worry for them if they don't bring players in, because, like I say, what team recovers from losing their best players, their well-established players, and not replacing them? Like, any team at any level would struggle with that. So I do worry for them a little bit.
And it's just typical as well that they've got the clearance to go into the Football League, and then all of a sudden the takeover doesn't happen. You would have thought that with the ground now been given that seal of approval by Gateshead Council, it would have made it a more attractive proposition for somebody to come in, either invest or buy the club outright, because they've gone, aha, now we can push up into the Football League. And I'm praying we don't have another Morecambe on our hands here, because it's gone on long enough. I mean, the government's new regulator, terrific, but they should have done this about 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the Morecambe situation we've spoken about, and it's bad enough happening to them. I'd hate to think it would happen to somebody else as well. Exactly, the football doesn't need that. So yeah, I mean, we've covered 2 bad there. So we've I feel like we need to move on to a more lighter note. So I think we'll move on to another team that we haven't mentioned yet, but we've seen some kits released this summer. One in particular has really stood out, shall we say. So Mark, I'll come to you first on this. Obviously, this is Robbie Savage's team, Forest Green. A manager close to your heart, I'm sure. What was your take on their let's say different football kits for this season?
Well, the last time I saw a design like that, Rod Stewart's pants in the video for Do You Think I'm Sexy? Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they get enough stick as it is. And now they've just thought, you know what, this fire ain't burning bright enough. Let's dump some more on it. But honestly, I mean, we saw it, Mac, last season and the seasons before that, we had pink and mint green tops, and we all know who picked them. But are they a vegan material? You can, once you've done with them after the season's ended, you could put them on a sandwich and eat them. I don't know. And now it just looks ridiculous. And now the tune I've got in my head is "If You Want My Body," blah, da, 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 da. But no, no, it's an eyesore.
Yeah,
It's an eyesore. It really is.
I quite like like pink kits for away strips. Like, there's been some good ones over the years. Like, you remember that really famous Juventus one from a few years back that was like pink, and I think Pogba wore it, and that I think, like, there is some nice ones, but this one, I agree, it looks like something that Tom Jones would wear, Rod Stewart would wear. It's very out there, in my opinion. But I did joke in the chat earlier. I said, I was like, it might work in their favour. The oppositions might be blinded when they play them next season.
Or crying with laughter. You don't know, do you? I mean, my Uncle David had leopard skin car seat covers in his Volvo. So, but no, I mean, that's just, I mean, make a mockery, but not of yourselves. Come on, show some class.
Yeah, I know. Craig, what did you make of the kits? Did you like them, or are you the same as us?
I'm in the same boat as you, but I'd say with Dale Vince, he believed that any publicity is good publicity, and it's just getting his team out there again. They're becoming a bit of a not running joke in these terms, but in like I said, they're being noticed by all these different pages on on Twitter and Facebook and all the National League teams. All the fans are going to be commenting them throughout the season on these kits. And for his eyes, there's probably no such thing as bad publicity. It's all going to be driven about the Forest Green.
But it don't get you promoted. It don't get you promoted. If publicity could get you anywhere, Wrexham would be Premier League champions by now.
They're on their way up there, though, Mark.
They are. It's working for them, and I do think these days they do have. Obviously I don't know for Forest Green in particular, but a lot of clubs do have people that track social media, websites, clicks, views, all that kind of stuff. And whether it's good or it's bad, it's all views, it's all publicity, it's all good clicks. They won't be fussed if there's a few people saying it looks ridiculous. They won't be fussed if we're sat here saying it looks like Rod Stewart's pants. They'll just be happy that we're talking about it in general.
Well, excellent. I can continue to call it Rod Stewart's pants then, because that's what it is. It is pants.
Just as long as you don't continue singing, mate, we'll be happy.
Hey, that's unkind. I've got a very nice voice, thank you.
It just didn't quite sound like Rod Stewart, you know. Not quite.
More like Alf Stewart from Home and Away.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, no, like I say, it's all publicity for them, and whether we agree or we disagree, it's all clicks, it's all views, and they'll be happy with that. Whether I'd love to know, to be fair, what their fan base think of it, but then you know they're probably used to it, these kind of kits and this kind of situation. So
let us know in the comments, people.
Yeah, please let us know. Get in touch with the podcast because I'd love to know whether he's like.
Altrincham have brought out a new kit as well. It's they've gone from the traditional red and white stripes, even trying hard not to amalgamate that with the saying that we have at Mac, but they did they've done an away kit. I think it's sort of black, grey with yellow, and do you know what? It actually doesn't look too bad. It's not leopard print, put it that way.
Yeah, but linking back to Forest Green, if we ever get someone from Forest Green on the podcast, as we are looking to get a member from each team on throughout the season, they must come on wearing that kit. That's the only obligation.
Yeah, that's the criteria.
Yeah. Come on, Rod Stewart playing in the background.
I'm sure we can set that up. But yeah, I'm sat here giving kit advice, and Carlisle United's home kit this season's been likened to a Tesco carrier bag for life. So so I'm sat here doing this, and to be fair, I like it, but I can see the resemblance to the Tesco carrier bag, not the one now, but like the older ones from back in the day, the blue, red, and white lines, and that. Yeah, definitely see the resemblance. So, I say, there's a lot of kits out there at the moment that people are undecided on, but I think the Forest Green one is a well-resounded no from everyone I've spoken to anyway. So like I say, I'd love to know if the Forest Green fans would like it, and then if they want to come on the show, more than happy to have them on, but they do have to wear it. Like Craig says, they do have to wear it.
There's one thing I don't know whether we covered it, was the actual change of sponsor of the National League as well. Enterprise.
Yeah,
Enterprise car rentals.
I mean, yeah, they've obviously gone from Vanarama to Enterprise.
They love their vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, for me, people who are watching this who know my story, I'm very anti-gambling sponsorships. I had a gambling problem myself, so any league or any situation that doesn't go down that route. So like the Football League, you see a lot of darts competitions, other sports. So the fact that it's just Enterprise, I am more than happy with that.
Make it so.
Yeah, more than happy with that. So yeah, so obviously that's that bit covered. So what we'll do now is we're going to have a little time now, each of us, just to go over our respective teams' pre-season. Mark, I'll come to you first. How's Macclesfield's pre-season been going?
A mixed bag. We got beaten in the first game 2-0 by a very strong Mansfield squad. We then went to Newcastle Town under Neil Baker, ex-League, ex-Crew. Got a 3-0 victory there. And then we've played. Who did we play? Oh my goodness, I can't remember who we played last Saturday. Halifax. Halifax. We lost 1-0. And Sam Johnson. I will go on here now. Sam Johnson will be the clean sheet award winner this year. Everything stuck to him like a magnet. And the only time he got beaten, the goal was offside. But I will say Halifax, boy, have they got some tall players. Good grief, it was like coming up against the Harlem Globetrotters at some point. But they've got I took a look at Cody Johnson, one of the players I've tipped to do well, and he will do well. He came on as a substitute, so not enough time, but he looked very comfortable on the ball. And then last night we beat Connors Key Nomads 2-1. Damani Mellor, a great 25-yarder from Danny Whitehead. A few familiar names in there: Callum West, Marco Prekapani, Dan Cowan, Jason Oswell, who's had a few clubs in his time. We got Barwell Saturday, and then a Derby County 11 the Saturday after, and then we go on to Worksop. But for John Rooney, it's about finding the players who he wants to sign, the replacements of the three who've gone to Forest Green, plus Rooney himself. But that's, I think, where Danny Whitehead could actually come into it and make it his own. But, yeah, I like what I see so far. Get a bit more clinical, get Danny Elliott firing on all cylinders, and we'll be good to go. But it's minutes in the legs, as he's called it.
Yeah, it's pre-season, isn't it? Like, you want the results, but it's the performances, it's players integrating new players with old players and things like that. So for me, with Carlisle, we've had 2 games so far. We won at Fylde 2-0, and then we won at South Shields last night 2-1. Standout player for me, Regan Linney. He's already scored twice in 2 games. He looks outstanding. He looks like he's been playing in that team for years. The amount of players we've used as well, we've got such a big squad. We've still got players that haven't even played, like Jordan Jones and people like that. But we started Fylde with Armstrong and Linney. Last night we started with Kedwin Scott. He scored last night as well. Armstrong scored on Saturday. We've got so much firepower, and that's without Charlie Wyke, playing. So yeah, so like I mean, I've heard rumours that Charlie Wyke's maybe on his way out, so that's potentially why he's not been playing. But we've got so many forward options, and like I say, to see this in pre-season, we've gave some young players a chance as well. Atkinson, Donoghue. There's been a couple of young players that have stood out as well, so hopefully they can get some game time this season as well. We've obviously made a lot of signings, waiting to see how they integrate. Really, we've still got obviously some good pre-season games to come. We've got Harrogate Town to come, which should be a good test because that's a team that always beat us anyways. Even when we were in League One and they were in League Two and we drew them in the cup, they beat us. Like, we hate going there, so that should be interesting to see what they do there. But yeah, I think from what we've seen so far, from the comments I've read as well, from journalists, people online, everyone's happy with what they've seen so far. A lot of valuable minutes in the legs, a lot of new signings getting integrated early, and Mark Hughes looks to pretty much have his starting 11 sorted in his head, especially defence and midfield. He seems to have it in his head what he wants to go with. Attacking wise, like I said, so many options, but Linney's obviously going to be the main man, and whether he's with Armstrong, Kedwin Scott, who knows. It's probably still up for grabs at the moment, but it's been really good so far, and looking forward to see how it carries on. And like I say, most people are tipping Carlisle to be, there or thereabouts at the top at the end of the season. So hopefully we're all right, and I'll be happy. After the last couple of years, we could do with some happiness around the place. Craig, how's Braintree's pre-season been going?
Yes, I haven't been able to attend any games yet, and it looks like I'm going to miss the next couple as well. So I think the first time I'm actually going to see Braintree in action this season will be on opening day against Halifax. So I've obviously been following from the feeds on X, and a few people that have been being in conversation with them. One of the running things is that the Trialist family will be proud. It seems like we've had quite a few of them throughout pre-season. As discussed in previous pods, we kept a good core from last season, but it was only 12 to 13 players, so we always needed to bring some more players in. We've only made 2 signings so far, which one is Lewis Walker from Woking, and he seems to have hit the ground running. He's probably scored most of our goals. I think he's got 3 in pre-season so far, which I think people were a little bit worried about him signing because he wasn't that prolific in his last few seasons. But although predominantly against lower opposition, it's just nice for a striker to get that goal under his belt and hopefully go from there, because we haven't actually seen John Akinde yet in pre-season. I think he picked up an injury late on last season away at Southend, and it's very much been a slow progression. I think he's been in training from what I've heard, but it's very much take your time. And I believe they're going to see him for the first time at home to a Fulham side on Friday night, a Fulham X side. And then we finish with Colchester as well, which will be a good test. They look like they're going to bring a fairly decent side along to us. Obviously, a team pushing for promotion in the league above. So it'll be a really good test for us. But yeah, 5 games so far. 4 against lower opposition, where we've picked up 3 wins before losing to Enfield last night. But similar to what Mark was saying about Halifax, from what I've heard, the goalkeeper was absolutely unbelievable for Enfield. That it became one of those where it almost like you could have been out there still tonight and we still wouldn't have scored, kind of thing. We had a couple, from what I heard, that were wrongly ruled out for offside, but ultimately, as long as you're not getting battered and in pre-season and you can still see signs of what you're wanting, the result isn't the be-all and end-all. But we did play Cambridge, who I think taught us a little bit of a lesson that there is these gulfs between the divisions. So it'll be interesting when the season starts, who we've got, because we still haven't got a goalkeeper officially signed on. It looks like that may be a loan, but from what I'm hearing, Trialist A, as he is known at the moment, has been doing pretty well in pre-season, so that could give Steve Pitt food for thought on that one as well. But yeah, pre-season, I'm ashamed I haven't got to go yet, but I will be following the next 2 on X while on holiday and hoping that a few more signings come through the door, because we need some more. But I expect us to have 4 or 5 loan players in the squad each week, and we've got 0 of those signed on. So perhaps someone from that Colchester squad who's not quite making it in, being only 20, 25 minutes down the road, they could probably still even train with Colchester once or twice a week before training with us later on in the week. Could be a potential one. I know we've had Frankie Terry from there before, Kyrese Lisby from there before. So there's definitely some good links there between Braintree and Colchester that we might need to rely on to be ready. And Ipswich, Luton are ones we've leaned on in the past. So 4 or 5 loans, start the season with a win at home, which I think is possible, and see where the season takes us. But yeah, fairly positive pre-season, but just want a few more through the door.
Yeah, I think with pre-season, like we say, the results are kind of secondary, and it's about, you want to see what, like, improvements, you want to see new players, you want to see things work out that way. And I think we've all 3 of us have kind of touched on that, haven't we? Where the results were secondary, it's more about seeing how the new players get on and things. So pre-season, like I say, we've still got another couple of weeks of that before the season starts, but it'll be here before we know it. We're not going to be here next week. Craig's on holiday. So
sorry, very selfish of me.
I know, it's disgraceful behaviour. And then we'll be back the week after with our prediction shows. We're going to do them in 2 parts. Yeah, 2-parters. Give our predictions. You can come at us for our predictions. see how similar we are. See where we've got teams and everything. So yeah, keep an eye out for that over the next couple of weeks. And thanks everyone.
One thing I wanted to say about those predictions, because I was watching you both submit them earlier. I will not name the team now, but there's a team that someone's got relegated, and another person has got them 1 place outside the playoffs. So that shows how open this league could be. One person has them going down, one person has them just outside the playoffs.
Oh, interesting. I'm gonna have a think about that now. But yeah, so don't miss them shows, because that's going to be interesting, because whichever one of us is that, we're going to be fighting that corner of our predictions. So, because I mean, unless there's some massive transfer business, I don't think I'll be changing my predictions too much over the next couple of weeks.
No, me neither. But then again, you can come in the comments and tell us how wrong we are.
Yeah,
I'm going to post it all out on the socials where we've all placed every team and everything as well. So,
be all on the socials.
Come at us with the great vengeance and furious anger if you have to. But
all I say is, if you come at us, come with your own ones so I can come back.
Yeah,
if yours go badly
it's all
wrong as
part for the cause, isn't it? I'm used to people telling me online how wrong I am about things, so it'd be nothing new, anyways. But yeah, if you're gonna come at us for our predictions, have your own predictions ready.
Absolutely.
Comment on the video, comment online, and we can chat, and you can give us why you think your prediction's better than ours and things like that.
Coming challenges on the podcast right here.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, if you're a Forest Green fan, make sure you wear that kit though, because that's the only chance you're getting to coming on. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks Craig and Mark for joining me,
Pleasure.
and we'll be back next time. Take care, everyone.